You mentioned that in your book, your latest book, Young Forever, about how helping
Yeah.
others and purpose. Can you talk more about that? I feel like that's a good segue into it because
Yeah.
that really, I think it's such a really critical piece to living a happy human existence is learn, and it gets your dopamine circuitry going right. Talk more about that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, was really interesting was that I began to sort of research my book on longevity, Young Forever, which came out last year. I've got a cookbook coming out
Oh,
June 4th. So that's Young Forever Cookbook. Check that out. But basically I kind of went to the blue zones because I wanted to see where people were living to be 110 and like what the hell's going on here. And I read a lot of Dan Buettner's work, and he's a good friend and has really pioneered the thinking about what are the elements that actually drive longevity. And it's not genes. It's not genes. I mean, there are some longevity genes, but essentially, there's very few people who have that live to be a long time. It's really about these fundamental things like what we eat, exercise, stress, and so forth. But one of the key elements that is in these communities in Sardinia and Korea, where I stayed for quite a while, is community. Everything is shared together. There's no nursing homes. Everybody lives with their family members or their cousin or their relative or their niece or their nephew if they hadn't have kids. I mean, it's quite amazing. There was one woman, Julia, she was 100 and quote 3 months. She's like, children, 3 months. She was like, I'm 5 3/4. She's like, I'm 103 months. And she's like, yeah, I don't have any kids, but I'm living with my niece, and so that they take care of me, and I'm still working, doing making stuff for weddings. She makes these doilies and little things for lacy things, and she's working all the time and takes her walks and hangs out with her friends. And it's like that kind of connection and community is medicine, and it's also about having a place, right? Belonging. So it's community, but it's belonging, but it's also meaning and being part of something. And I think those are really important elements. I mean, just having meaning and purpose extends your life by 7 years, which is crazy.
wow.
Yeah.
And I think it makes your life a lot more enjoyable to live. It's
Yeah.
if I start to feel myself drift, I immediately zero in on something purposeful that I can
Yeah.
do, either short term or long term,
Yeah.
because that's it. Like that's the only thing that makes getting up out of bed worth it. Otherwise, you start, humans just get off track and they start
Yeah.
to drift. And I think one of the best ways to do that, which you talked about in the book, is to help others. Go do something of service and be helpful to someone else. And it really just does great things for the wiring in your brain and your
That's true.
hormones and your
Yeah.
neurotransmitters.
There's a lot of science around this. I mean, there's
Yeah.
actually a book called The Social Conquest of the Earth by E.O. Wilson, who's a Harvard sociobiologist. And he wrote a book about how from ants to humans, we are all social creatures, and we have evolved altruistic behavior as a survival mechanism. You put a naked human in the middle of the woods, good luck, right? But
Yeah.
as a community, we can survive. And I think we have this innate drive for altruism. It actually stimulates the same reward pathways as heroin or nicotine or sugar, but it's a lot healthier. So being of service is such a powerful thing. And I remember when I went to Haiti, and I was working 20 hours a day and barely sleeping and not eating much. And I was just so happy. Like, it was weird to say that because it's like it was just the worst devastation I've ever seen. It was the worst suffering I'd ever seen. I mean, they were military there from the 82nd Airborne, had been in Iraq and Afghanistan. They said never seen anything like it. It was like 300,000 people just dead overnight, and then 300,000 people injured. And it was just horrific. And I wasn't happy because of that, but I felt so useful, and I felt so engaged, and I felt like I was doing something that was helping people, and I didn't think about myself at all. Like, I just stopped thinking about myself. And I think we all think about ourselves too much, and I think stop thinking about ourselves and being in service is a very powerful medicine.
Yes. Amen to that for sure. So you were in Sardinia and elsewhere. That was your glow up. So there was this moment in 2022 where you showed back up on camera and you were super tan and you looked super happy. And
Oh yeah.
I was teasing you before, all my girlfriends are like, he's aging in reverse. What is he doing? What's happening with Mark Hyman? He's getting better
Well,
looking by the day. You had, I
yeah.
don't know, something shifted for you, I think, during that time
Yeah,
period. I don't
it
know what it
did. Yeah.
was, but you
Almost COVID. And I stopped, and I actually took care of myself. I mean,
ah,
sometimes you can take the service thing a little too far. And
yeah.
I don't know about you, Tina, but when you see the power of functional medicine to help people, and you see how many people are suffering who actually don't need to suffer. I mean, war, I can't end the Middle East crisis right now. I can't end the war in Ukraine. I can't, like, single-handedly prevent nuclear war. I can't prevent tornadoes, right? But these are solvable problems that people have, that you and I know have real answers and solutions that they're not getting from the traditional healthcare system. And so I was just so driven to tell the story, to get the word out, to help as many people as I could. But in the process of doing that, I burnt out. I had my own practice. I was building a whole center Cleveland clinic. I was doing my podcast. I was running around teaching. I was like, it's a lot of stuff. And I just kind of burnt out. So I basically decided to stop. COVID decided to stop everything. And I went along with it. And I kind of went to Maui and I worked out every day and I ate good food and I rested and I was in the ocean and I went to the sun and I was in nature, and it really just kind of rejuvenated me. And I've really been committed to taking care of myself in a way that I hadn't been for many years, because I just felt like I had to go do this. Like I was obsessed. And I think now I still am doing it, but in a different way, in a different scale. And I've created a company called Function Health, which I hope hopefully will be able to help people get access to all the insights and knowledge that we have at scale through a lab testing platform that allows you to get access to your own biological data, to learn over time and understand what's going on, so you can upgrade your health and get a sense of what's happening, and to use the model of functional medicine within that to help people understand what to do. Because the reality is that 80% of what we see, if we just gave people a few suggestions, they don't need medication, they don't need surgery, they just need a few changes, and they will make a huge difference in their health and their life. And so that's kind of, I'm sort of trying not to do everything myself anymore and do it a little bit better. But, I've been doing a lot of practices and things that, that I think are really helpful, hormesis practices and dietary changes and more protein and more strength training and more meditation and also more community, more friends. It's just kind of doing things that I recommend to people to do.
I love that. I need more of that in my life. I hit a wall. I closed my practice in 2018 because I just hit a wall and I was getting chronic pneumonia and I couldn't get over it. And
Oh, wow.
I couldn't keep up with everything. And I was a single mom and it was all too much. And so I ended up letting my practice go. And I had spent my whole life as a very sick kid in doctor's offices. I spent my whole life in clinics. And I was like, I wonder what life is like outside of a clinic. And I wonder how much more good I could do at scale if I wasn't trying to spend time one-on-one with people. Like, how can I scale my brain and get to more people that way? So that's been kind of my journey with it. But COVID forced me to stop too. And that was really nice, to be honest. The first 6 months, I was like, oh, I wasn't on an airplane all the time and I wasn't sleeping in weird beds and hotel rooms. And it was a reset for many of us, as hard as it was for so many.
Totally.
Yeah. So when you came back with that tan, I was like, he's been strength training. That was my first. I was like, he looks like he's been lifting. What's going on there? So you said you brought maybe a little bit more strength training into your life. That's my favorite thing to talk about. So what do you like to do? How do you lift?
Honestly, Tina, just to come clean, I recommended strength training always to my patients because I knew as a doctor how important it was. But I told myself a story, which was that if I, did my cardio, like my tennis and biking and hiking, and I did yoga, which I considered, quote, strength training, that I would be fine. And I was pretty good. I was good, but I really did not like weights, and I didn't like smelly gyms. And I was kind of a skinny guy. So all these big muscle heads in the gyms would kind of intimidate me. And I just didn't do it. And then I decided before I turned 60, when I was 59, I was going to suck it up and just get a trainer and go to the gym. And so I did. And I started doing that and got serious about it. And that was just before COVID. And then COVID happened and I had back surgery during COVID, and it was the whole story on there. But I basically found out about a program that was developed by Tom Brady and his trainer, Alex Guerrera, who developed a band workout program, which allowed me to be able to work out anywhere. I didn't need a gym. I didn't have to go to some smelly place. I had to drive somewhere. I could just do my little bands. I didn't have to carry equipment around with me. And it's like a pound or less. It's like this big. I stick it in my suitcase, and I need a doorknob or a railing and a floor. And that's all I need. And I can do in half an hour, a great workout, strength training, upper, lower body. And it's also core strengthening, stability. So it's really made a huge difference in how I feel and how I move and also how I look.
I love it. That's great. Yeah. It's however people need to get it done is how it needs to get done. And I think muscle's such a non-negotiable factor for good aging and longevity.
Yeah.
But it needs to be done in a way that is accessible to people. And the gym gym intimidates a lot of people too, especially women. They don't want to go near it. And the sarcopenia and frailty, that's coming unless we actively fight it. And totally. I think that's a huge part of, you mentioned how it's so heartbreaking to see people suffer and know that you have answers. My background was in regenerative injection therapy. So I dealt with pain all the time. I was doing prolotherapy and PRP long before it was cool. I think my friend Harry Adelson,
Oh yeah.
my mentor mentored up myself and him. So that's where
Oh, Harry. Yeah.
Harry and I have the same legacy.
Oh,
And
Harry's great.
that's what I did with my career. And I see so much suffering, but so much of that pain is due to metabolic dysfunction. Like
Yeah.
osteoarthritis is diabetes of the joint in so many ways.
Yeah, it's
And
interesting. Yeah.
and osteoporosis is diabetes of the bones in so many
Hmm.
ways. And
Mm.
so anyway, I found my mentor who mentored Harry and I both always emphasized strength training, and I never listened to him. And then I was approaching 40, and he unfortunately died of cancer. And as he
Oh,
was going, I took over his practice, his 30-year practice. He thrust upon me, and I was like, all right, here we go. And it was really, really challenging for me. And I thought, if I don't, my MO when I get stressed is to waste away. I just stop eating and I just kind of drift and get skinny. And I knew he
yeah.
was going to die. And so I started training for it, quite literally.
Oh
I
wow.
started lifting weights in preparation for the passing of my best friend and mentor. And I was
Wow.
like,
Wow.
I got to be strong for this physically. And then I just got addicted. But
Yeah.
and then I started studying muscle and what muscle does and
Yeah.
all
It's
the
huge.
benefits. And it's such a non-negotiable if we want to age well.